All right, welcome everybody to the Truth and Democracy's first meeting after the election. Let me let some more people in here. So what I'm going to do today is I'm just going to allow everybody to sort of express their views about why we lost and what to do about it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to read and we don't want to take really more than 3 to 5 minutes to explain this. We don't want to go on forever. What I would like people to do is to talk about one, why they think we lost, two, what we need to do, and then three, you can make comments on what other people have said. I'd rather have you explain why you think we lost and what you think we need to do, rather than have people criticizing what other people are saying, although you're free to do that, because some of the things might be controversial. Before I do that, though, I want to talk about the Truth and Democracy. We're building the movement to save democracy, and we're doing it by doing some counter propaganda. We have a couple meetings going up. First, I've just scheduled a meeting to watch the movie on the red pill and the men's rights movement. Is it a threat or is it a new civil rights movement? And then also on the 15th, this is 15th, on the 1st, we're doing a discussion, but this is outside of the Truth and Democracy Coalition, on the white knight or the bad boy. Which do women prefer? And so you can register for the other one at tinyurl.com/redpillmen. That's for the latter one. And then for the other one, it's tinyurl.com/redpillmovie. So you register for those two, and so our first discussion is today discussing why we lost and what the problem is. So, and what we're going to do with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read mine first. So my view is that the leaders of the left, the liberal leaders that we are following, should be fired. Their public campaign to teach gender identity and anti-racism in our schools angered parents, allowed Trump to portray the Democratic Party as a freak show. Not that the Democratic Party is a freak show, but the people who are watching, who are Trump supporters, they're the guys who watch these reality TV shows. This is like Trump has turned this into, I don't know, this may be dating myself, but Jerry Springer, the founder of these, they put some weirdos up there and everybody screams at them. That's what Trump has turned this into, the Democratic Party into. Not that we're weirdos, but that's what we've allowed them to do. This, combined with Kamala's failure to offer solutions to the problem of illegal immigration, even after Biden had sent her there and assigned her the task, what she could have made a big deal about, but this all led to a landslide. The Democrats lost men, we lost Hispanics, we even lost women. Abortion didn't save us. Many leaders of the leftist political organizations, political parties, and the academics they follow are out of touch. Many liberal post-mortem analyses of the election are, of course, coming from the same leftist propagandists who misled the Democratic Party in the first place. And we are hearing the same worn out, tired falsehoods. Americans won't elect a black woman. Men are fascist and sexist. Hispanics, blacks, and poor people who voted for Trump are low information voters. None of these are true, nor do they explain why Harris lost. Many things influenced the election, of course. Biden should have committed to being a one-term president, but that's not why Kamala lost. Many Americans are racist, but Americans also voted for Obama. Yes, some men are sexist, but most are not. Sexism and racism did not swing this elections. Kamala's loss can be summed up in two words: immigration and transgenderism. The Democrats were walloped on the issues. When Biden sent Kamala to the border, she failed to take advantage of the opportunity. She could have made a name for herself as the person taking on the crisis of illegal immigration. Instead, we heard little from her, and she did nothing to solve the problem. And from this failure, Americans could conclude that Kamala didn't have the heart or desire to lead. Transgenderism is another self-inflicted wound. The leaders who promoted high-profile campaigns to sell books and trainings to school districts are not necessarily Democrats. They are leftist entrepreneurs. The problem is less with teaching about anti-racism and sexual identity and more with political propaganda and entrepreneurialism. Political entrepreneurs can make money from politics. Millions of dollars can be made from political slogans and movements. In this case, publishers and trainers wanted to sell trainings and books to school districts and to everybody else, by the way. When communities rejected their content of their books and trainings, the publishers, trainings, and activists accused them of banning books and called parents bigots. They set up moral police at our schools and colleges and form a diversity, equity, and inclusion departments to punish behaviors like misgendering a student or committing microaggressions. What did leftist leaders believe would happen when they turned our children's education into a high-profile, hot-button political campaign? What did Democratic leaders think would happen when they started to teach alternative sexual identities to children? What did liberals think would happen when they started teaching children ideas their parents disagreed with? What did they think would happen when they called men toxic and America racist? Take a lesson from people who have dated transgender women. Learn to be discreet. We didn't need a loud public campaign to teach anti-racism and gender identity in our schools. We don't need sexual identity advocates and anti-racist policing our classrooms. We don't need drag queens teaching our children. All we need is a chapter or two in a book to talk about sexual identity and other social movements. Liberals must recognize that they are just as subject to false and divisive propaganda as those on the right. Many political organizations are using cult-like techniques to disseminate divisive and hate-filled propaganda, and this is both on the left and on the right. And political cults do exist. While leftists clearly see the fascist propaganda, racist dog whistles, and conspiracy theories circulating on the right, they fail to recognize the anti-white, anti-male, anti-American, and anti-Christian propaganda they consume. Those leftist leaders who took us down the destructive and losing path should be fired. America is not a racist nation. Men are not toxic, and Christians are not nationalists. We don't need DEI departments policing our schools, and the problem of illegal immigration needs to be addressed. Leftist leaders should have known how their propaganda would affect Democrats' chances of winning. They must step down. Okay, so Denise, you're first up. All right, go ahead, Denise.
To me, it's more about our political system being broken, too much dark money, too much disinformation, and people don't know what the facts are now because all the disinformation. And as far as Kamala and immigration, it wasn't her job to go to the border and fix it. It was her job to travel to like countries like South America, Central America, and talk to their leaders and try to get them, to help prevent their people from coming over here. She wasn't supposed to fix the immigration problem. So I just think there's just too much dark money, too much disinformation, and our political system is broken at this point.
Okay, thank you, Denise. All right, Robert, you want to turn on your camera, Robert? That would be great if you could.
Okay, thank you. One thing that really surprised me is how stupid our fellow Americans are, how they don't understand so much about how government works, about foreign policy, about domestic policy. They care just about their pocketbooks. But this is a feeling that at election night, I felt a lot of rage. But I've settled down quite a bit because one of the things I'm beginning to understand is what the Democrats did that was wrong. First of all, the for 2 years, the Democrats didn't do anything about the border, and they underestimated how important the border is to most Americans. And they just let people in, and they wouldn't answer in New York. Politicians complained about all the people coming to their city and no resources. That was a huge mistake to let happen for 2 years. And then Afghanistan was terrible. We had to get out, but the way it was done was a blunder. And then to say on camera that everything went well, that was terrible. Biden should have not run at all. And there were too many people up in the DNC who knew his condition was not good and kept it a secret. And that shocked probably most of America. The one thing that I think Kamala was a good candidate, I think she ran a good campaign, but one incredibly stupid thing she did was go on The View and say she would change nothing that Biden was doing because not too many people watch The View. However, the Republicans use that clip in all their advertisements, and that was just a terrible move. Um, so what we need to do, I think, is we need to realize that we're all Americans. We need to open up more of a dialogue with Republicans, especially those in rural America, especially those in rural America. And so as soon, if the worst happens that I think most of expect will happen once Trump gets control, is we need to jump into rural America and show them how we can do better than what would probably be happening now. Farmers, as they lose their help because they're being deported, are going to run into major problems. Tariffs are going to take away their sources of income. So we need to jump on that. And then just to wrap it up, because I know you don't want me going too long, is Richard, I do very much agree with you that those running the DNC have to be fired, that as a Democratic Party, we paid way too much attention to teaching about the transgender community. I think, yeah, have a little something in our books and stuff and discussions if it's brought up in the classroom, but not to make it almost like a policy thing. Um, the other one, going back to the campaign, the other thing that we did, I think overdid, was siding with Republicans like Liz Cheney. I mean, yes, I'm glad Liz Cheney was on board, but we overdid that and we forgot about the little people. So hopefully we've learned our lesson, but the first thing we need to do is get rid of the leadership of the DNC. That's it.
Thank you. All right. So Joseph, go ahead. You got your camera on and unmute. There you go. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, so I'll try to be brief because I usually talk too much whenever I show up here.
That's okay. We got nobody in the queue, so don't worry.
So first thing, I've been thinking about this a lot. One of the problems I see, not just with Democrats, but kind of on the left, broadly speaking, in general, is I think one of the problems we have is that we're very reactive. We're constantly just reacting to whatever the right does, right? It seems to me that the right, or at least the leadership on the right, can be far more strategic and kind of play the long game. And so on the left, we'll kind of jump on to various bandwagons with various like things that become popular, various social movements. We'll will attack like Republicans for doing certain things, and then that sometimes comes back to bite us. When a Democratic politician does the same thing, and it's like we're always reacting, right? And it's ironic because we're supposed to be the progressive ones, so we're supposed to be the ones who are like coming up with new ideas. We're supposed to be pushing things forward. We should be the ones on the offensive, but it seems like we're always on the defensive. We're always reacting. And that puts us at a disadvantage. So that's very vague, but that's the first point I wanted to make. Maybe that'll generate some thoughts. The second one, now this is a very dark idea, and I'm just throwing it out there because I've heard it, and I'm not recommending it myself. But as far as what we can do, I have heard the idea that actually, it's gotten to the point where Democrats just, to some extent, need to allow the Republicans to actually do damage so that people can see like how horrible Republican policies really are. Because when the Republicans implement horrible policies, some Democrats do everything they can to try to ameliorate the effects of those policies. And I think that's the morally correct thing to do. But just strategically, if we allowed the people to really see how horrible Republican policies were, like let's say, okay, this is hypothetical. Let's say the Republicans try to just ban abortion completely. Okay. Now, of course, Democrats would do all sorts of things to try to get around it, try to like find loopholes, right? Yeah. But what if we just didn't do that? What if we just let people really experience the horribleness of Republican policies? Because what we do is we make the effects of Republican policies not as bad as they would otherwise be, and then we do stuff that, at least to more conservative Americans, is off-putting, right? Like certain cultural issues. By the way, I'm very culturally liberal, but I'm just saying, we do these things that to at least some Americans is off-putting. And then we also make the Republican policies not as bad as they would otherwise be. Well, why don't we just let people feel how horrible Republicanism is? This is a very dark, scary idea to me. I'm not recommending it, but I'm just throwing it out there as a thought. So those are just two thoughts I had, and I don't really have anything more to add.
Thank you, Professor Dowd. And there we got Robert is back up. That's good. Yeah, one thing I want to say is that the leaders of the left really don't listen to us. They really don't listen to us. I've been working trying to counter the propaganda that has been undermining our ability to win elections, and they don't want to listen. And so this is an opportunity for us to learn to think for ourselves, not to be told what, because a lot of times what happens, we go to the meetings, they tell us what to think, they tell us what to say, and there's no room for discussion of anything. Somebody's making these decisions, and it's not me. It's obviously not me, it's not you. So this is an opportunity for everybody to come up, think for themselves, and come out and express their views, and then we put it out there, and maybe somebody will listen. But they certainly are not listening to me or to a lot of us. So Robert, you want to come back in and add some things?
I just want to bring up what Joseph said was, and I agree, it's kind of, you don't want to go down that path where you step back and you just let the American people suffer and let them know. I think what's so frustrating to me and Manning is that no matter how bad things are for them, they still turn around and vote Republican. And one example is a union member many years ago who had voted against going union. So he wasn't a union member. He worked at a factory. And if he had voted union, he would earn up to $20,000 more a year. And the reason he gave, it ended up being turned down to enter unionship. The reason he gave was, well, I don't want any Mexicans working at my factory. So he denied himself an extra $20,000 a year for that attitude. And that's what's so frustrating. You think, I mean, look at how Trump performed at the debate, look at how dark their convention was. And yet people look past that. And to me, it drives me crazy. But that I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you, Robert. Yeah, one of the things is that we're so inundated with propaganda, and we don't realize it. Both sides are inundated with propaganda. In fact, it's important to recognize that everything we read, all the news we hear, everything is propaganda. So we're inundated with it because that's what everything that we really read, the news, everything we read and rely on, the book markets, they're all propaganda. Academica is a propaganda mill. Anything that's designed to change the views or affect the attitudes of groups of people, large groups of people, or even small groups, is propaganda that's disseminated to the masses to influence our attitudes and behavior. So everything is propaganda. So it's important to take a very critical look of the messaging that we're being told is the messaging that we need to spread, when the fact is, that is propaganda. And if we buy it hook, line, and sinker and are not critical of it and don't analyze it, then we're not gonna, we're gonna just spend time feeding ourselves, just like the news keeps telling us, oh, we're gonna win, Kamala's gonna win, Kamala's gonna win, Kamala's ahead, They tell us everything we want to hear except the truth. All right, Joseph. I'm gonna add you in again here.
Yeah, I hopefully some other people will raise their hands, but I had a thought. And another thought about what we can do. So I live in San Bernardino, and which is nowadays a heavily Hispanic city, and I teach at Cal State San Bernardino, which is a Hispanic serving institution. That's what they're called. Anyway, so and it's interesting, and also there's also a very large African American population. Yeah, and it's interesting. I just being out and about around people. I really did feel that. I did get the sense that a lot of the Hispanics and Black people in this area are they're definitely probably somewhat Republican leaning, and some of I got the sense a lot, not necessarily the ones who are students at the university, but I got the sense that a lot of them probably maybe are sympathetic, somewhat more sympathetic to Trump than I would have suspected. And I was thinking about that, and I think one thing is so why would Hispanics, why would African Americans, why would they favor Trump over Democrats? Okay, I mean, I could see them maybe, or some supporting supporting like a generic Republican, maybe if they're like a business person or they're socially conservative or something. But Trump, why would they support Trump over Democrats? And I think what's happening right now is there's this kind of shift happening where a lot of the we're losing our ability to hold on to those voters, the Hispanic and Black voters. And I'm trying to understand why. And I think part of the reason I've been thinking about this a lot. So this is going to get complicated. Tell me if I'm talking too much, Rich.
No, you're fine. We don't have anybody in the queue, so you're free.
Okay. So I've been thinking about this a lot. And a while ago, I was on your podcast. Actually, I gave a presentation on logic-based therapy. And on my introduction to it, I was talking about how Jordan Peterson, you might have, some of you have heard of the psychologist Jordan Peterson. He's become very popular, especially with young people, very popular because of his self-help stuff. And it kind of amazed me, because he's also he like promotes a kind of spiritual or religious philosophy, right? I'm not sure if he actually believes in a God, but he talks about that kind of stuff, and it's interesting because I used to think that like liberal theology was basically dead, right? All the churches are shrinking nowadays. The only churches, well, they're all shrinking, but the conservative ones are shrinking more slowly. So I thought liberal theology is just dead. But I mean, Jordan Peterson, politically, he's conservative, but his theology, I mean, again, I don't even think he believes in a literal God. His God is like some kind of ethical ideal or something. So it's a very liberal theology, and people eat it up because they like his self-help stuff, right? And even young people who are like running away from religion in droves, they like it. Okay. And so this got me thinking, and this is also drawing people toward that kind of right-wing politics. Right? And so I'm wondering, this is again just a random idea I'm throwing out, but could it be possible to have like a sort of a Jordan Peterson, a liberal Jordan Peterson, or a progressive Jordan Peterson, right? Where someone puts forward something that is genuine self-help, that really helps people. People get value for their personal lives, right? And but it's kind of packaged along with progressivism, right? Because I'm getting the sense that more and more people want self-help. That's like the big thing nowadays, you know. Your average person just isn't interested, sadly, in talking about systems and systemic problems. They're interested in talking in things that help them with their own personal issues. So if we could do that and combine it with progressivism, could that be the solution? Could that be a good way of branding? Anyway, that's all I have to say.
Yeah, so there's a similar argument. We need a Joe Rogan, a liberal Joe. I'm trying, but one of the problems that I think I face is that, you know, in order to do that, we need the left to open their minds a little bit and accept different points of view and accept that they may be wrong on a lot of things. I think this issue with men and division between men and women, the left is wrong to call men toxic. The left is wrong to silence men because they think that, and to call them oppressors. The left is wrong to do that. The left is wrong about the red pill. And so we're getting a lot of bad information, false information, and we're told to believe it. And so if we go over all these things, we begin to see that there's a moderate point of view. But the thing is that Americans, or the Democratic Party, has to be open to those different points of view in the first place to be able to discuss it.